let's go. Yay. Welcome, everybody. Give it about a
Can
couple.
you unmute me?
Oh, no worries. Go ahead. Well, welcome. While we get a couple of things set up here. Welcome, everybody, obviously. This is, for us, it's really nice. I'm in Atlanta, and it's like 70 degrees, cloud, like not a cloud in the sky, really pretty today. My name is Meredith White. I teach in Atlanta, teach Spanish 1 and 2 at the high school level. So if you are not a repeat attender, we've had a few, welcome. We are cruising right through our little spring series. And so tonight we have Diana. I'm super excited. I should say today, because I'm used to saying tonight, it's usually later. So hopefully we're catching you at a good time where you're kind of between things and, you know, get ready to play some games, as she said. So I'm excited. Diana, tell us, I know where you are, you do, but go for it. Tell us what you're up to these days. Where are you?
All right. So I am in Memphis, Tennessee, but I want to start with sharing you a story. Are you up for stories? Yes. All right. So picture the year 2000. What were you doing in 2000? Think about that. I just got to the United States. I like got off the plane. I'm in Ohio. I go to Ohio State, OHIO, and I was hired to be an aerobics instructor. So I was nowhere close to academia. And everybody's training to be an aerobics instructor. So you have to do like a little tryout, like a demonstration. Everybody's preparing a song and a little routine. So back in the day, everybody was punching and boxing. Everybody kickboxing, no pain, no gain. And here's Diana coming from Argentina. And I have only one song I wanted to do. And that was Mambo number 5. A little bit of Monica and my little bit of Meredith in my life. So I was ready to go. And I was preparing the song, and I'd never been in the United States. I never been on a stage or the judges. It was American Idol. I'm sweating. I can smell the people sweat. It was a terrible situation. I'm nervous. I don't know. I needed to hear something that will push me to do this and just get to be an aerobics instructor in the United States. And the girl's like, Latin music. Just like, that's not gonna work in fitness. We'll talk about that soon. But anyway, another girl said to me, about to get on the stage, she says to me in the eyes, look at me in the eyes, and says, break a leg. And I was like, you say what? And I got so mad and I yelled at her. So that's my first key takeaway, right? Saying a phrase in the right context for the right meaning. When she said this to me, I was completely annoyed and I was mad and I didn't understand that meant actually good luck. So fast forward a little bit more. When we got out, I got to be an aerobics instructor 2 months into this. And then the fitness coordinator says, well, another kickboxing class, Diana, right? You're going to teach kickboxing in the stages or something. I said, no, how about we put Latin music into the fitness? And all my other colleagues said, that's ridiculous. Nobody's going to do Latin music and fitness. That's ridiculous. And today, 20 years later, everybody's doing Zumba, right? So my second key takeaway is that trust me when I tell you I know what the future holds. And that is WLSP, which is World Languages for Specific Purposes. That means language focused on professions and also other skills. Like, for example, break a leg. Don't say break a leg to a person who just arrived from another country when they don't understand the meaning, right? Yes? All right, so are you ready to start and play a game with me? Right. Everybody's ready? Yay. All right, so first thing I want to see in the chat is where you're connecting from. Where are you connecting from? Areas in the United States where you're connecting from. I want to see the chat. Meredith, can you see the chat where they're connecting from?
Yeah, so far Pennsylvania, Virginia, Tennessee, Connecticut, me in Atlanta, so Georgia, and a couple of Connecticut, couple of Tennessee.
That's awesome. So they met the WLSP and we're going to know what it is. Daniel is in Pittsburgh. Meredith in Atlanta. Alma is in Virginia. Fernando's in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm going to go visit. Joseph is in CT.
Yeah, Connecticut.
I cannot say that word for my life. And then Stacy is in Tennessee. Where in Tennessee? We don't know. Tennessee is long. And then Abby is in Ola, Southwest City. Perfecto. Muy bien. I'm going to say city. So everybody, we're going to play a game, okay? I need you to focus on the screen right now. Okay. All right. And the screen is going to tell you what to do. And then you're going to put in the chat. You're going to use the chat a lot in this presentation. And you're going to tell me how many times the ball was passed. All right. So let's do this.
The monkey business illusion. Count how many times the players wearing white passed the ball. The monkey business.
All right. So type in the chat how many times the ball was passed. Let me see. Avi says 16. Daniel says 14. Stacy says 16, 14. Alma says, I've seen this video before. Alma, you've seen this video before. And then Ginger Mary says 15. Fernando Varela says 7. Joseph, I've seen something similar. Perfect. Okay, well, let's see what is the solution. All right. You can still see the chat. I don't know if you see that, but it's like, what's going on?
The correct answer is 16 passes.
Yay! Congratulations.
Did you spot the gorilla?
Yes.
Let me see your faces on the good.
For people who haven't seen or heard about a video like this before, about half missed the gorilla.
Oh, I'm too excited to see your faces.
If you knew about the gorilla, you probably saw it. But did you notice the curtain changing color or the player on the black team leaving the game? Let's rewind and watch it again. Here comes the gorilla, and there goes a player, and the curtain is changing from red to gold. When you're looking for a gorilla, you often miss other unexpected events. And that's the monkey business illusion. Learn more about this illusion and the original gorilla experiment at theinvisiblegorilla.com.
Okay, so before we start the poll right now, I want to see your faces on the gallery view. So everybody go to gallery view so we can see each other's faces. Can you see each other's faces? Perfect. Not just mine, everybody. All right, so how many of you saw the gorilla? Raise your hand. You saw the gorilla. Okay, you've seen this video before. How many times you saw the first video and this is a new one for you? How many of you saw both videos? Raise both your hands. I'm gonna make you move a lot, all right? So how many of you didn't see the curtain? You didn't see the curtain. You're like, oh, all right. So we all teach languages, right? We all teach, look at me in the eyes. Okay. Now, why did I show this video? What is the point? This is my 3 key takeaway for you today. Okay. The ball, are you ready? The ball is grammar. The ball is grammar. When you're so focused on teaching grammar, you miss the gorilla, the curtains, the kids passing the balls, and many more. Because we're so obsessed with the grammatica that we forget about cultura, contextos, trabajos, everybody. But it's not your fault. It's the standards that we have to cover. It's all of that, right? So I wanted to show this because sometimes when we focus on something, we're missing everything else around us. And it's very important that we see the whole picture, including the gorilla, whether we like it or not. Some gorillas are more hairy than others. Now, on the poll right here, I'd like to see on the chat, again, I use the chat a lot today, like I said. I'd like to see your name, your role. What do you do? Are you a professor, instructor, associate professor, dean? And what institution do you teach at? And what is your experience with WLSP? And for now, I'm going to define as world language for specific purposes, which is languages used for profession and other specific things. And if you don't know what that means, that's fine. You say, I think I do LSP. I don't know if I do or not. So in the chat, start typing all of that things. So name, Meredith is a Spanish teacher. How do you say? Winnet County Public Schools. None that know with LSP. All right, now that I know, perfect, perfect. In a funny story, if I confuse county with country in many forms, and my forms look really weird. Joseph says, I'm a high school Spanish teacher at Minneapolis, an independent school, 9 to 12. I'm also the diversity practitioner for our schools. Yes, and I have no experience with WLSP. Perfect, Joseph. You're going to participate in a lot in this talk. Daniel says he's an ESL instructor at University of Pittsburgh. I've been taught ESL for medical purposes before, but mostly focused for general and academic purposes. Perfect. Fernando Varela, grad student instructor in Spanish at Portuguese at Vanderbilt, and have no experience with WLSP. Perfect. ¿Quién más? ¿Quién está aquí? Además de nosotros. Bueno, los demás creo que Alma tiene que ir a dar clases pronto, así que está bien. Entonces, now, everybody here, for the most part, teaches Spanish. So, Abby, Spanish teacher for 5th, 6th grade, director of World Language and Tennessee Language Center. I'm still working for them part-time, but I joined at Youth Delaware in January for Spanish in their Associates in Arts and Programs. Ginger, I'm a student at Salisbury University MD, student Spanish secondary education, and I'm still learning about WLSP. Perfect. So for most part, we teach Spanish and English, correct? Is that right? Let me see in the any other language besides Spanish and English? Do we have any French, any Japanese, Chinese? No. All right. So what we're gonna do now on your name, all right? When you're gonna change your name, are they able to change their names, Meredith?
Yes.
On the thing. So change your name to actually your dream profession. What is if you were not a teacher, what would you have done? So I'm gonna type mine. You can put it in Spanish, in English, I don't care. It could be bilingual. But mine, as you can guess, is an actriz. I wanted to be an actriz, but Hollywood didn't want to see me. Plus, I never live in Hollywood. I live in Ohio and Tennessee, so I'm a little far from California. Well, let me see what other professions I have besides being a teacher. What would you like to have been? Oh, Daniel, the librarian. Good. And you can keep your name and then Stacy, an architect. If you didn't change it to a career, I think your last name already is a career. That would be so cool. Like if your name is Pablo Actor, you know, always a teacher, dice Meredith. Meredith, she says, I'm not changing my profession. Fernando he wants to be Varela. Oh, I'll be a nurse. That's awesome. And Joseph, you love to be an AD. You know, I know. Changing, you have to click on the little 3 dots on the top where it says ask to unmute. And if you, or something like that, and then no, you cannot change it. So that's okay. Type it in the chat. And Ginger, Secretaria en Educación. Good job. Perfect. So we all have a dream job that we want it to be. And have you ever heard when they say that teachers, I don't want to say it because it's too mean, but anyway, we also do a lot. All right. So let me tell you a little bit about WLSP. So it's world language for specific purposes. That means that it's every language besides English that is taught with, for example, on the far right, we have a lawyer. So Spanish for law, for example, or French for law. And then on the left, Spanish for healthcare and nursing. And in the middle, we have the soft skills. Ginger says, I'm a junior at Joseph. Yes. All right. So in the middle, we have etiquette. So like teaching how to use plates or this spoon for something or the fork for something is really, really something that we can teach in a language class according to the culture that we're teaching, right? So that is not a specific profession, but it still is a purpose. So I want you to keep that in mind. So when we have a WLSP class, so in the classroom, how does it look like? Looks like a regular language class when you have your grammar and you have your culture, but the grammar, you are focusing on a purpose. So the purpose can be a job, but the purpose can also be learning how to eat properly in Spain, for example, how to eat properly in empanada or a mate. I'm from Argentina, and the mate has a straw, and people usually try to move the straw when they start drinking it, and that's a big no-no for mate etiquette, right? So you could teach these things in a WLSP class. And then you have WLSP courses that are for academic purposes. So that means that I'm going to learn how to be a student at the university. That happens a lot when you go, for example, to Spain and you want to be a student in la universidad, and they teach you how to be a student there and what is the right way to address a teacher, or how do you write a paper. Have you ever had a formal class on MLA, APA, or how to write, period? I mean, there will be a WLSP class for academic purposes. And feel free to use the chat to ask questions or make comments. As Meredith, feel free to interrupt me if you have a question that is burning, and like this is a conversation besides me presenting. And Actor says, I'm from Paraguay and I can just relate to mate. Well, I'd love to see your mate. If you have a mate, Actor, I'd like to see it. And who's from Paraguay? What's your name? And I don't know your name because your name is Actor now. And
Fernando.
Fernando, sos paraguayo, claro, of course. We drink tereré with Fernando. And at the core of WLSP, and I know we have Joseph, right? Who was to say before? Joseph is he's a diversity practitioner in the school. He's going to know a lot about this. But at the core of the WLSP, we bring diversity and inclusion in the classroom. And the first thing we're going to bring to the WLSP classroom, and think about the game with the passing the ball and the monkey. So culture humility is the curtain changing colors. How many times in a language class you thought about culture humility before teaching the class as an objective? Usually the objective is subjunctive, right? So the objective could be teaching culture humility. And then some of you might be like, well, what is culture humility, right? And that's okay if you don't know. This is more talk about in the healthcare professions. But culture humility is this. So picture a scenario where you encounter a Japanese person and you assume immediately they like sushi because they're Japanese. So you say, oh, you're Japanese, you must love sushi. But the culture humility tells you, no, get off your train. Just don't assume anything about them just because you know these. So that's a culture competence in you, like, oh, I have culture competence, So you think you know everything about that culture, but that's not true. You have to go with zero. You have to go with no expectations and say, excuse me, you're Japanese, but how do you feel about sushi? Now translate this to Latino culture. You can substitute sushi with taco, for example. A lot of people assume that I eat tacos because I am Latina, Hispanic, Latinx, but I eat tacos, but not since I was a kid. So anyway, there's a good conversation that can spark from going with zero to that encounter and learning. So that's called culture humility. So when you teach a WLSP class, the topics that are related to professions specifically are health, commerce, law, tourism, hospitality, law enforcement, and mental health. But the non-profession topics that I was talking about before in the diversity and inclusion could be all of the ones you can read on the screen. I'm not going to read them all for you, but you can teach a whole class or a whole course on this. You can go a whole class on Latinx alone, just explaining what the term means, how many people like it, how many people don't like it, how people feel about it, why should be there, why should not be there. Like anything else is a little polarized these days. But I think you can bring all these topics to your WLSP class and have an interesting conversation. So do you see how it's not just about the professions, And I love how people are connecting in the chat and they are want to share emails and contact with one another. So questions people ask me when they want to start with WLSP. And by the way, I'm happy to connect with you later on and send you information, share syllabus. This is not the end. This is just the beginning. Well, people say, wow, do I have to change my whole syllabus to teach WLSP? And no, you can actually start with one exercise, with one class, with one topic that I just show you and teach about Latinx, What if I'm not a medical doctor? Right, you don't have to be a medical doctor to teach medical Spanish. What you teach as a language teacher is the language and the culture of medicine. And you can talk about, for example, compare and contrast the Cuban medical system versus the Argentinian medical system or the Paraguayan medical system, right? Or the Tennessean, I don't even have to say that, but bueno, you know what I'm saying, right? You can compare it from what you already know. So nobody's asking you to go to medical school. What you do is you look at this vocabulary like you would teach any other vocabulary, right? And usually when we teach a language that is not our first language, we need to really study those vocabulary words, regardless of what the field they are. And then other people say, oh, why can't we just hire adjuncts to do this? No, you have to do it. And then the fear many professors have, also teachers, etc., says, well, we'll stop taking literature or linguistic courses. And the answer is no to all of this. If anything, things are changing and we're going to change with things. And remember my Mambo number 5, when I started to teach fitness back 20 years in 2000 at Ohio State, I had a vision, and I know that in the future, students are going to want to apply their knowledge of languages to professions and cultures. So we just have to change. And I know the word change is like, oh, but change the way we teach literature, the way we teach linguistics, and the way we teach in general. And this is true for any discipline. But why not see how we can do it? Okay, so I'm going to show you that. So enough with the imagination, and now to the application. So imagine you're a chef, right? Like you have this guy right here, and you have your class, and you have your grammar and culture. Now you're going to add a little bit of professions in there, a little bit of culture, humility, and some soft skills with balance and focus. You have a fantastic WLSP class, and you don't have to go with, you start one step at a time, baby steps. So you start with one class, one topic, then 1 week in your semester, maybe one whole class, and maybe you could just teach the same class, you just change the title and move things around. That's all you have to do. So this is what I teach at the University of Memphis. I teach Spanish for healthcare and culture, Spanish for medical interpreting, Spanish for community engagement, Spanish for Commerce 1 and 2, and Spanish for WLSP at the graduate level. This is a methodology class. So I'm happy to share all of the syllabus and all my ideas to teach these courses. I created them from scratch, and they are always full, and the students want more. That's why we created a second version of the Commerce one. So imagine this. This is a class. We're gonna use the chat together. So here's the class we're teaching on engineering, okay? So we will talk about ingenieros, like engineers in the United States versus engineers in Guatemala, no? And so we do a little research, and so we talk about the safety case studies that we have in chapter 2 or something like that. But for this lesson, we're gonna not focus on the content of engineering. We're gonna focus on the representation, and the key word here is representation. And I'm gonna do the Vogue like Madonna did, no? So representation. So look at the engineers here. These are real pictures from textbooks. And tell me, what do you see in terms of representation about engineers? What is the representation that mostly appears in textbooks according to these 4 pictures? Let me see the chat. Men, yes, Daniel, they're men. Stacy, all engineers are men with beards. Man, this is no women. Eva said they're white. Aha, of course. You got it all. You all got it. You all get the 10 points that I have for you, if there are points. But yes, they're most males, they're white, they all have beards. Apparently engineering and beards have a correlation, right? Now we have to do some research on this. But yes, it's true. And so the students, imagine this teaching Espanol or teaching in any class, and they can talk about this in the target language. So now you're not focusing on ¿cómo voy a ser un ingeniero? No, how are you going to be an engineer? Now you're going to focus on the representation. No, ¿cómo están representados los ingenieros en estas fotos? ¿Qué me puedes decir? And guess what? You can engage students from level uno, like level 1 to level 700, however you coordinate that level, because they can talk about basic things, los hombres son blancos, they're mostly white, o tienen una barba, qué bien, and so you can be very creative with this, but I wanted you to see how I take the students from the ball to the monkey. And I told you there are different kinds of hairy monkeys. Remember my joke. Okay, wow. And now this is another one. And this is a true representation of 50 professions in a textbook. And for this one, this is a true exercise. It says something like this. View the 50 professions images, identifies 3 professions of interest to you. Do some online discovery about the professions you choose and rank them in order of your preference. In this week discussions, you will be asked to share the 3 professions you choose, your ranking order, and your rationale for the ranking. Be prepared to dialogue with your peers about their selections and what they learn about each other's professions they choose as well. So imagine giving this in the target language. Again, look at the images that we have for the professions. And the students will have this image, and for homework, they're going to choose 3, and they're going to talk to one another why they chose those 3 professions, which one is their favorite, primero, segundo, tercero. So now they're learning numbers, they're learning representations. And now about perception again, and this could be an icebreaker for your class. Imagine they all bring the top professions. I know your professions choices because you put it in your name change. So I have actors, I have nurses, I have a lot of different ones. And what is the issue of representation on these images specifically? Another one. So let's play in the chat and tell me, what are the issues of representations on these images right here? Again, Abby says, why? No people of color, +1. Daniel says, bottom right, no? Yes, all of them. And what are the issues with this representation? So what else do you see? What about size? Stacy, very male again. Do we see any difference in body shape? Joseph, no. I think that's a beekeeper in a mask. Yeah, we don't even know what they are. That's a beekeeper. Yes, it is a beekeeper. Meredith, a little body shape difference. Yes. Joseph is a pilot, male, flight attendant, female. Yes, very, very stereotyped gender roles also. Very good, Joseph. Yes, and also, what about people with different color hair? Meredith, actually, maybe not. The only difference, the cook chef. Yes, the chefs are the bigger ones. Exactly, Meredith. Actor, soccer, male. And then Stacy says the pastry chef. They're very stereotypical, right? And the only person with the different color hair is the artistic, we can have a doctor with blue hair. No. So then, it's a very stereotype, but imagine this discussion with your students in the language, Meredith, and everyone, it looks youngish. Yes, another thing is ageism. So think about this, what we're doing today, as we're talking in discussion, think about that in the target language, and it's very interesting. And you can play with this as you want. You can play with the colors, you can play with the heights, you can do anything you like. So now for this one, I teach this specifically in my medical interpreting class. And this is true or false. Okay, again, use the chat to answer. A nurse practitioner is common in the US. However, some countries do not have these professions. Is this true or false? I don't know, this Meredith. We don't know. True? This is Stacy, and then you says true without the question marks. All right. Ginger says true. Daniel keeps asking the question. What we don't know. We don't really know. Actually, let me see if one more person would like to type it in the chat. The answer is, drum roll. The answer is true. Yes, it's true. You all were right. Yeah, this is not a common position in other countries because healthcare systems differ quite tremendously. I'm going to tell you something. My father was a doctor, And my papa, mi papi. So my father was a medical doctor. He did everything. He did everything from opening the door, welcoming the patients, doing the blood pressure. And I was the secretary, and I will make coffee for them. And the ones who have suffered heart problems did not appreciate that, but my father had to keep having clients. So anyway, just kidding. Hey, they gave me candy at the dentist the other day here in the United States. So by the way, they have to keep you coming. But no, nurse practitioner is a very significant profession from the United States that people have here, and there's a lot of different chains of people that see you from when you go to the doctor. No, there's the nurse, the helping of the nurse, the helping of the doctor, there's so many people involved in that process of seeing the doctor, and we don't have that in other countries. Maybe because we don't have the luxury, or maybe because it's not really needed. It's depending on where you see this, but the truth is it's not a common. So when you see a nurse practitioner, many people who will come from maybe Argentina, like in my case, it's like, la doctora, the doctor, and it's like, no, she's a nurse practitioner. And usually nurses in Argentina don't have the power to medicate, or the kind of things that nurse practitioners can do. So this is an important thing to clarify, especially when you're in the medical interpretive field, to the patient, and to understand the differentiation of roles. Another thing is gestures, right? And for example, during a healthcare encounter, again, we're in the medical interpreting class, and the students are learning this. The patient is extremely expressive through gestures while communicating with the provider. The provider misinterprets the gestures as a sign of anger. The key word here is anger. And one more, which is the most appropriate action for the interpreter to take. Okay, so again, the provider misinterprets the gestures as a sign of anger. So what should the interpreter do? You are the interpreter, so let's put in the chat number 1, 2, or 3. Number 1, you intervene transparently and offer to clarify the cultural context of the gestures to the provider. Number 2, wait until the healthcare encounter is over and discuss the use of gestures with the provider and the patient. And number 3, avoid mentioning anything if this is not an oral response. Most people have one. Yes, very good. Everybody put 1. Yes, actually it is true, because, well, let's go back. Why is this important? Some people might be tempted to say 2, because I say, well, it's not a big deal, it's just a gesture. But because it's not the interpreter, you are not the one misinterpreting something, it's the provider perception as anger. He can take action towards that patient. You want to be, as an interpreter, you're also what? The cultural broker. So you're like a cultural ambassador, and you clarify this situation, right? That's also part of being an interpreter, not just repeating the words in the order they were said, but to actually clarify. So you did it right. Another thing is the positioning of the interpreter while you are in the encounter. How many times did you teach body language in your classes? Let me see you in the gallery view. I want to see your faces. How many times did you teach? Okay, so I'm going to show you something very quickly. And it's very good now that we have the social distancing, right? That we have the social distancing and we cannot touch anybody. I'm going to give you a solution. You want a surprise? Yes, everybody's ready for a surprise. Yay. But anyway, so let me finish this out and I'll show you my sorpresa. All right, so this is a chart I created, which is, everybody knows about it, but I just put it in a Word document and I published an article on it, but it's called Body Language in Medical Interpreting. And I have a theory that if they interpret actually repeats things in the first person and controls the body language, say I am this Italian person, heritage that moves the hands a lot. As an interpreter, I need to chill and put my hands behind because I can create a lot of distractions. And my goal is that the patient and the doctor look at each other directly. So when the interpreter says, hi, my name is Maria, I'm going to be interpreter for you. Hola, mi nombre es Maria, voy a interpretar para usted. You actually say to the caregiver or provider, please look at the patient in the eye as if he could speak English. And you say to the patient, por favor, mire al doctor como si él pudiera hablar español. And that creates a complete different relationship. Because what happens? Most doctors, most providers want to talk to you, to the interpreter, and you don't want that. You want the doctor to look at the patient and the patient look at the doctor. So now, the sorpresa, yay! I have my sorpresa for you, and everybody's looking. Hold on. So here's what I use. I use my little guy. I have a little puppet. Hola, ¿cómo estás? So here's my puppet. He even has the face mask. So where do you get this? I'll tell you where to get this. But I said, this is a doctor with a little mask. And then I have my guy here. Huh? See? And then I also have a cheerleader. So professions that can get hurt, right? Because I do a lot of the role play. And this is how I do my dialogue. And again, this dialogue you can do with any content. Any content. It doesn't have to be medical. It could be anything. But I'm going to show you a trick so that the interpreter has a chance to do something. Another thing you can do with, because of the social distance, is show how most Hispanics want to kiss, right? When we say to the doctor, hola, ¿cómo está? Hola, ¿cómo está? We kiss. But that's not a big no, even before the pandemic. Now with the pandemic, forget it. One of them gonna touch each other again. But in Argentina, el doctor te da un beso. Again, you have to keep the patients coming, right? So, hola, ¿cómo le va, doctor? Bien. You know, so like you hug each other. That's a big no. But you can actually show it with your puppets. And guess what? No more lawsuits. Yay! We're not going to get sued anymore. I was a TA also in the year 2000, and I wish I had puppets back then. Anyway, so I'm going to show you my trick for the dialogue. Here we go. All right. So the dialogue is very simple. You get a Word document and you make 3 columns, all right? And this is very important. Focus. Now look at Dr. Smith, or your provider could be Nurse Jackie, Dr. House, Grey's Anatomy. I don't care. My students create the dialogue, so they usually choose somebody like they love, like the good doctor. They love the good doctor. And you leave the middle part completely blank for the interpreter to do this. And then the patient on the right side could be Señor Lopez. You can do whoever, Señora Lopez, lo que ustedes quieran. So here's how it goes. So you do the first square with what the doctor says. And in, in between brackets, you can put whatever you want them to do, like a little play. And then you leave the next square blank and the next one blank. So then the patient produces some language in the target language, and then you go back, interpret, and come back to the doctor. And you do this for 2 or 3 pages or whatever you want. And this is how it works. So here we have the doctor without the face mask. ¿Dónde está? So, and I'm the interpreter, and I'm showing what I show in that positioning, right? So I'm here, I'm third party. I already introduced myself. I said to the doctor, please look at the patient as if he could speak English. Por favor, mire al doctor como si pudiese hablar inglés, español, perdón, I don't even know. So I'm disappearing from this triangle. They're looking at each other, not kissing, but they're looking at each other. And Dr. Smith says, good afternoon, Mr. Lopez. What brings you here today? Buenas tardes, señor López. ¿Qué lo trae aquí hoy? Me he caído mientras daba una ducha y me duele el brazo derecho. I fell while I was taking a shower and my right arm hurts. Sorry to hear that. We will perform an X on your arm right away to rule out any broken bones. Lo siento escuchar esto. Vamos a hacerle radiografías en su brazo enseguida para descartar cualquier hueso roto, right? Very good. Well, see, it's hard to interpret, even if I wrote this. So this is how you do it. And this is the model that I use for medical dialogues, and I hope you can use them in your classes with anything. This could be a meeting at a restaurant. This could be anything you think about. Now on Zoom, what you can do is do the same and have only people with the camera on that they're going to interpret, and everybody else, makes their video go away, and you just have the 3 people who are going to do the interpretation as the main people in the Zoom call, and it's really unique. Everybody can observe it, and I can show you that too. Another thing that I do is case studies, and this is facilitated by another colleague who teaches medical Spanish, my dear friend, Cristina Garcia, who is in St. Louis, and she does case scenarios, and each case scenarios have a real situation. For example, the first one is a medical insurance. And this is Nicolas. He's 45 years old. He's from Nicaragua. And I'll let you read what the situation is. So there you go, and adapt this to your local area. So this was St. Louis. We can do it in Tennessee. We can do it in Connecticut. We can do it in Atlanta. We can do it anywhere. And then another one is fear. For example, the big elephant in the room. We never talk about undocumented patients and healthcare. So like, for example, in this one, you came to the United States 15 years ago without documents. You have two children who are U.S. citizens because they were born here. Your family is below the poverty line. First, which government program could your children apply? The second, is it possible that by enrolling the children, your undocumented status information could be shared? And that's a little bit, fearful to talk about this topic. So yes, and another video and documentary I show is La Clínica de Migrantes, the HBO, which is a wonderful documentary about undocumented patients.
This came up the other day on Lang Chat. Marta Serrano shared that a lot of like prompts that we use commonly can also like not only are uncomfortable, but also could be kind of harmful for some of our students. Like a typical one is like, oh, ¿cuántos años tienes? Oh, 16 años. ¿Tienes tu licencia? ¿Tienes un carro? And that's a lot of times where our undocumented students find out that they're undocumented is because they go to get their permit or whatever, and their parents have to, that like things they didn't know, especially. And I thought that it was a great point, and the person who she had commented on was like, oh, I never thought about that. And it's like, yeah, there's a lot that comes up into, oh, you have to pay for your soccer fees, like come to school. It's okay, your parents just have to show, whatever. And it's really easy to be like blow off that kind of thing, and like now you're affecting people.
That is exactly that, Meredith. That's exactly right, and we don't think about the diversity that we have. So a good technique would be to just practice the questions before. And now, while Meredith shared this idea, thank you so much. I'd like to hear other situations that you might think we can diversify it in the language classroom. Let me see. Do we have any questions and comments in the chat? I'm gonna share with you a little bit more. About what I do. I'm going to show you a little bit more, just a few more things, and then I would like to open it for discussions. And I'm going to show you how also you can introduce TikTok in your class. And this is a wonderful tool that I use. There's a lot of faculty who also use TikTok for engaging with the students. And usually when you think of TikTok, you say, no, this is just it's funny, but actually there's a lot of medical interpreting videos. So let's watch this one together, which one of my grad students found for her presentation. Let's see.
Stitch this and tell me about a time when you were asked to translate for somebody and it went terribly wrong. I'll go first. So when I was still a baby nursing student, we had gone to a hospital for clinicals and a patient came in with a pneumothorax, a collapsed lung, and the physicians wanted to express that to the patient. So me being the overeager student, I saw the opportunity and was like, Mee! But then I realized I didn't know how to say pneumothorax. I spent the entire time telling this patient, su pulmón se cayó, se cayó. And they were like, ¿dónde? I figured it was better to use visuals, and I said, su pulmón estaba así, ahora está así. And at that point, my patient was like, ah. The best part was that the physicians were all literally around me watching this interaction happen. And when they asked me, do they understand? I was like, yeah, they do.
So that's a fantastic example of how to use that. Another one that when you teach the subjunctive, I know Daniel is crying laughing. The subjunctive, you can actually go to the doctor for advice. Like, instead of just thinking I have to teach a subjunctive and all these rules, you just have a doctor give advice, and that's the best way you can exemplify the use of grammar with a purpose. Another thing we did in business, and this is not just for business, but in general, it's like there's a company, it's called Kiva, and you can actually lend money to real people around the world. And this is something the students can do. A colleague of mine, Sean Hill, and we created this project, and I have an article that we wrote about this, but I can share this with you, and it described the whole project within a high school. But basically, you can search for people who need money to buy specific things, and this lady in Honduras needs to buy chanchitos of pigs, and you can lend money. Now I want to take a moment of silence, and I think we're close to the end for this one, because I want to take a moment and please ask you and beg you, all language teachers out there, if you're going to teach anything to the students, think about how many times a student tells you, I took, and I want to see your faces because you're in gallery view, you took 7 years of Spanish, and the students cannot make a phone call, text, say the numbers, the years, and the percentages. They don't, they get, all right? Put them back to back with the phone and make a fake phone call. No pasa. So please, this is something, how many times you have an oral presentation, I want to see your faces, and the students are going, y el descubrimiento de América, y aquí, la conquista de América, whatever you want to say, this is going to bring a lot of discussion, but whatever you want to say, el año que Colón llegó, and then we're going to read 1492, and they go, and then that's it. They're not gonna. So we need to teach this. Another thing is, think about the format of the oral presentations we want them to deliver. Usually it's El País de Guatemala. Chichitas Tenango es, and then for what is the purpose of the presentation? What are you, I know the language, and again, is the ball, but what about the curtains and the gorilla? So mira, look at this oral presentation. This is a business presentation. There's a chart, and the student has to be able to describe the chart in the target language. How fantastic. The student just have to describe a pie chart about a specific topic within a context. So aquí está el pie chart. Este porcentaje de personas en Argentina toma mate, este porcentaje se lava los pies, este porcentaje, whatever, lo que quieras, but at least the student can say porcentajes, años, hablamos de la pandemia, lo que quieran, y they are applying it to a real business meeting. And they have to tell a story with the data, and they have to present it with the best chart they can. It doesn't have to be a pie chart. It could be a bar, stat bar, but they have to tell you a little story. So the description of the activity, okay, is not anymore like, dígame sobre un país y cuénteme la economía, but you ask them to do something specific, which is describe data you found in a specific chart that you choose, but you have to tell me a story with that data about that country, something interesting. Boom. So your oral presentation assignment changes completely, and now we have a purpose that was fulfilled. So that's just an idea. And then using Tweet, I have a colleague who teaches in business. She teaches a search engine optimization. Sometimes when you Google something, it goes to who knows where. But Ann Abbott at Illinois, she's a wonderful person. I hope she does a flag one day, because she's a phenomenal speaker and she has a lot of great ideas. The biggest book on Spanish for commerce is Éxito Comercial by Michael Doyle. He's a great colleague. And I love this book because it has a lot of orientaciones questions. So besides asking you, how much do you shop for this and and this is all in Spanish, it's asking you, what size should not we use to buy online and why? Tell me if I had to be concerned about global warming, or what companies are not following etiquette. So then you have a discussion that is beyond the basics. Como decía Mary, decía antes, it's not like everybody buys cars, everybody has a driver's license. Tell me why, or maybe I cannot shop online because I don't have a credit card, I don't know what that is. I don't have internet in my house, so I go to el mercado, lo que sea. Another one is mini casos, and I like the mini cases because there is a case similar to the one with the doctor that a heritage learner How many of you know heritage learners? They're overconfident, like, oh, I know español, pero las tildes que se la ponga tu abuela, porque yo no se las pongo, ¿no? Pero they're overconfident and they go to the interview, no se preparan because I'm a heritage learner. I know I'm overconfident, and then they go to the interview without preparing. And then you have the polar opposite where heritage learner doesn't want to speak Spanish porque no quiere threaten the friends. He doesn't want to threaten the friends, right? So in this interview question, you have to discuss if the student was prepared or not and why. Another movie I like to show for job interviews is The Method. I don't know if you saw it. Raise your hand if you saw this movie. And it's based on a play. And I love this movie for many reasons. It's because everybody's gathered in an empty room waiting for an interview that never happens. And I'm sorry, this is a big spoiler, but it's a wonderful movie to see how people interact with one another. And again, it's free online. So if you Google The Method, El Método, you will find it. You can watch it on YouTube. It's from the 90s, but it's a great movie to show your students. And then Todo L, which is a site you can find exercises. You can find an exercise specific for this movie. It's fantastico. Another book for business Spanish I use is Expertos de Editorial Difusión, but again, this is based on Spain. So a lot of the prompts are written in vosotros, which is okay because you can expose your students to both ustedes and vosotros. Nothing wrong with teaching vosotros. It's just that teaching only one way can only expose one part of the language to students. I like the diversification, but in this particular exercise, we can see gender roles in the job environment or in the work environment. And then these ones are signs that are specific to the cultura. So in the chat, you can tell me what you think they symbolize. For example, the first one, the first one, the second one, the third one. What are this? What do you think they mean, these symbols? Cow car. Daniel says a cow cart wash. Nail it. Yes. How did you know? This is exactly what they do. Now, can you spot the fox? Anybody can spot the fox? I'm with the hidden animals today, huh? Can you see the fox? What did the fox say? Remember that song? The second one is one fox. Yes, that's a fox. I know, Bird. It's a fox. And then butcher, ginger. Do you want me to tell you the answers? I know you're suffering. I can see if it's bullfight. Yes. Okay, so here we go. So the first one is los toros, the bullfight. La segunda es la casa del zorro, or the hunt of the fox. The three is public spaces where it's forbidden to smoke. And the fourth is solar energy. And you have students prepare this, for and against this and why and why. And then another thing you can do in your classes is go to the supermarket and take pictures of products of food and teach about the content of the food. You can teach a whole class on food content. This is amazing. And this particular product is about non-regulated labels. And guess what? In this particular label, light, you're all thinking low calorie, right? Like, oh, I'm going to buy this because I want to be fit, I want to be skinny. And light in this case means less flavor. They just tricked you into buying something thinking you're going to be skinnier, but now you're going to have less flavor of the same thing. So, y es queso manchego, no? So without flavor, the queso manchego is just rubber. All right. A lady who does a lot with NutraFit is Norma Martinez. You can find her on Instagram, and you can have students find nutrólogos or nutricionistas on Instagram and work with them. There's so much you can do with the professions and Instagram and TikTok. Also find the biggest sushi roll in the world. Just have fun with it. Another book I introduced in my business Spanish is Crea tu propia suerte. So I have my students create a business. If they have all the money in the world and all the resources and they have everything they need, what business will they create? And one of my students created a business for real. So this is a coffee place right here in the Cordova Farmers Market. And the coffee house is called Cool Beans. And it's actually where I go shopping for my food. And I love coffee. And I said, Brandon, my students, said, listen, I need coffee. I said, you mean it, Profe? We created a coffee shop. And long story short, this is what happened. So be careful what you wish for and be careful what you teach because it can be a reality. All right. So I like truly apply knowledge. So when you teach something, it can really become true. So yes. The discussion actually started with Brit. I don't know if you're familiar with Café Brit in Costa Rica. This is a business that a student who went to study abroad in Costa Rica started and created the business of coffee in Costa Rica of all countries, right? It's like going and creating a soccer team in Argentina or something. Another thing you can do in your class is an infomercial. The students love this, and you can do it in your in Jamboard or even on a Google slide and create it. And don't worry about taking notes because I can give this to you, and also you can get a prize. The prize is extra credit or whatever you want. Also play around with food pyramids and how a food pyramid can have the top at the top like that, or be upside down like a Japanese where food pyramid that has the bottom upside down and the fitness and water is at the top. Have your students create memes on food. Have your students create questions about products. So for example, I created this for Cincinnati, and they have the Procter & Gamble, and they have to create a product that was being promoted in the language in the country where the language is taught or most spoken, so France, Spain, Latin America, and what will they promote? What product? And if they create a product, they have to describe it. Also, they can go find it in their house. Go find go find a product you have, and describe it, something that you bought abroad or something you found local. And you can do this on Zoom. This is a lot of fun exercise. And I'm gonna close with this one. Other services. So everybody knows Uber, Lyft, and Airbnb. Yes. What is similar to these? What are similar to these products that you can create? Think about it. What's another product? That's homework for you. But actually, one of my favorite speakers, his name is Sebastian Maniscalco. You know him? He's not related to me. I know he's an Italian last name. He's a stand-up comedian on Netflix, and you can find him. He has the latest one. I recommend watching the latest one. But Sebastian Maniscalco makes us travel in time, and he makes us go to like 20 years ago. And he said to us in this video, would you have jumped in somebody's car that you just call with your phone without knowing who the driver is? So he says, and I quote, Uber is hijacking with the phone. So I don't know what you think about that, but I think it's completely true when you jump in a car with somebody you don't know. And like I said, for example, maybe this is the last slide. In changing the way we teach literature, you can actually focus on en La Crónica de una Muerte Anunciada de Gabriel García Márquez. You can focus on the autopsy rather on other parts of the story. And then you can describe the autopsy as a result and talk about the murder and the autopsies and what caused what and the recollection of the impression. So I'm going to stop sharing right now. And I am going to open the floor for questions and comments, and I can keep going all night, but I want to hear from you. It's just about changing the way we see things. So thank you so much for listening and for being here. So please feel free to ask questions in the chat or gracias, aplausos a ustedes. Thank you so much for listening. And you're gonna get the whole Google slides so you can see everything that I have there. I have more stuff.
I'm going to stick that link in the chat here, if that's okay.
Yes, please.
Cool.
And I'd love to keep talking to you if you're going to start an activity, a class, if you want to shoot me an email. Maybe I should put hold on. Feel free to ask me any questions, comments, anything that comes to your mind. What's another company we need after Airbnb or Uber? What do you think we should open? Oh, hold on.
I'm surprised there's no Airbnb for like long-term use of cars. Like not an Uber because I need to get someplace, but like not a hassle like a rental car either. And you also can't rent a car until you're like 25. So like with the insurance or whatever, so you could I think that would be cool of cool, borrow my car, but for like a week and it's cheaper, but it's like my car, like an Airbnb.
I like that. I need one because my son goes to school and it doesn't have a school bus that'll take him there. So I will hire somebody like a chauffeur, like a remis. In Argentina, we call it remis. And before I forget, I want to tell you, if you want to learn more about how to teach languages for specific purposes, buy my book. It's coming out in February. A little propaganda aquí, un poquito de, and it's Georgetown, and it will be available February 2022 if everything goes good. So yay, Meredith will get a link to the buy-in options. And it's gonna be cheap because I think it's gonna be black and white. And then here's my info if you wanna contact me on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, or the old-fashioned email. And then I have my thank you specifically por Messi, para mi amiga. So I do workshops for people who want to teach WLSP. I just finished doing a workshop for University of Cincinnati, the faculty in languages. So we spent 3 hours and they all created a class. So that's a good thing. So if you want me to go to your institution, play with my puppets, let me know. Congrats, dice Stacy. Gracias. Let me see the chat. So Daniel says, I gotta run, but thank you, but no problem, Daniel. Bye-bye. Meredith shared the link. Stacy says, and they always scare you getting the extra rental insurance. Yes, the rental insurance is high. Stacy says, do you work with intermediate to advanced students, Stacy? Stacy, yes. And feel free to unmute yourself if you want to hablarme. Yes, so that's a very good question. That's a big one. Stacy, you ask a question that is key to WLSP. And there's a lot of, there's a big gap between you saying you're doing WLSP for Spanish 1 or like level 1 or like intro to medical Spanish and then advanced. All my students, all the class I teach are heritage learners, advanced students, you know, nobody's learning this at the beginning level because what happens at the beginning level, it's not WLSP, it's everything. So a student has to learn everything. That's why you're still gonna have a job. Yay! Everybody's gonna have a job. So I am all for WLSP, but at the intermediate advanced level. I'm not saying you cannot teach a beginning class for WLSP, but it will have to be a track. So I envision a program that has 2 tracks, the traditional track and the track that's WLSP. But it has to do a lot with the faculty that you have and the mission of the institution. So you have to play around with all these different coordinates. You just can be like, oh, let's wipe everything and start WLSP, which is, in my case, my dream, right? But no, you have to see, does the school has a medical school, like a UAB, University of Alabama, Birmingham, they have a medical school. Everything is about the medical school. We don't have a medical school, University of Memphis. We have a nursing school. Okay, well, let's make it about that. When I started my interpreting program, where the other interpreting programs, am I going to be competing or I'm going to be an asset to those programs? You have to be doing that needs assessment, right? And there's a big discussion. My dream is to have a program that shapes all the classes towards the profession. So you're still teaching your Spanish 1, 2, 3, and 4, but you start in high school. You start in elementary school. Like we're doing in the University Middle, we have a campus school at the University of Memphis. Now it's University Middle, it's going to be a high school. We're going to start introducing in the language classes topics about the professions. So when they get to the college level, they're already there. So rethinking the curriculums, our standards and objectives, I don't know. What do you guys think?
was going to say one major problem that I've seen at universities is always that the School of Nursing, for example, like you mentioned, they need the Spanish, but there is no flexibility with their programming whatsoever. Their semesters, their curriculum is planned up for everything, even to electives. Or just recently, I was talking to Chattanooga, and they don't have electives anymore. So they were approaching our language center to create something for their nursing students, but they won't commit to any type of sequence. The students will come in with whatever they have learned at high school, which we all know what that typically equates many years out of high school, right? If they've even had 2 years, which is the minimum typically to get into the university from high school, and they want to learn medical Spanish. And so that's the big challenge of where do you find the time, right, to get that within the curriculum, and then have the motivation from the students to do that at the same time when they have such a packed, intensive course sequence for their degree.
Absolutely, Stacy. And you're in Chattanooga, you said?
No, I'm still working with the language center here in Nashville. It's part of the University of Tennessee. And so the nursing school out of Chattanooga had contacted us. And so I'm starting to find out what their needs are. But again, it's the same issue that I've seen at universities that I've worked at, that the idea of creating a certificate at a low level where the students don't have the basic Spanish to communicate, but they don't have the time sometimes within their programs, or even the willingness, to do that extra study and get to the point where they're at an intermediate level when they can actually then have specialized vocabulary. And, they think they can learn vocabulary lists, right, of terminology, and that's going to allow them then to communicate with people in a medical setting, which we know is not going to work.
This is an article we have to, gracias, you're welcome, Joseph. This is an article we have to write. We need to write an article that addresses this to present to all the schools, because what you're telling me, Stacy, I heard it 700 times. I mean, it's just like, I think we can do qualitative studies, and then we do a word cloud. It would be like, the nursing school wants one course where the students become fluent in Spanish for medical purposes, and one semester, maybe half a semester if you have time, if you can go with it. And we're going to be able to do open heart surgery in Español, por favor. And you're like, anything else? And I'm like, anything else? And I'm like, ¿Qué más necesitan? No, like, I mean, it's almost like it's impossible. What they want is Harry Potter, La Marita Mágica. They want something that doesn't exist. And that has to change from their side. But there's a misconception. There's a stereotype about Spanish. Español no es simple. Es fácil. No, lo hacen un ratito. They can dream in Spanish. Rosetta Stone. I don't know what they think. But like, and I like Rosetta Stone, but sometimes, like when they say that they don't need language teachers, I'm like, no, do you still need us? Well, what I think needs to happen is they need to produce more literature, readings, and research on this area and present it to the people who do nursing. And if they really, truly want to do this, they need to change from the core and dedicate a specific track. And then what's going to happen is, we language teachers are going to keep teaching our classes, and they're going to have a specific faculty in WLSP to teach those courses. But what happens? I have my teaching load in my department. I teach in the language department. And when the nursing school wants me to teach for them, yeah, I can create the class, but who teaches the class? Who is trained? So we have a little catch-22 going on. There's no WLSP classes for graduate students. There's no WLSP programs that graduate and masters, and much less a PhD. So everybody who does WLSP is a self-made person. One day we said, how do we do this? And we started doing it. In my case, I said, well, my parents were doctors. I think I can do this. Like that's the incentive I had. But my training is in cultural studies and literature. So, but a lot of the big names like Michael Doyle, other people that do WLSP came from literature and cultural studies or linguistics. It doesn't matter. You just have to start from scratch and think about in the future, what I foresee is training people in WLSP specifically for programs that work in healthcare. So there's going to be that need for those specific programs. And even a little step further, and a specific person who can create those courses with what they want to see in those courses within the language vision, right? Like we are not teaching nursing or we're not teaching medicine. We're still teaching the language and the culture of those classes. Now, if you want a person that translates that class and teaches that class, that's a complete different ballgame, right? So that's what they asked me once to. I've been asked so many things you cannot imagine. But one time they asked me to translate the whole program into Spanish and go teach it. And I said, okay, what else do you want me to do? So I don't know. ¿Qué más? So, Fernando is actor. Actor, ¿me dices que eres? Are you an actor?
No, I'm not an actor, but
You
that
wanted
would
to
be
be an actor.
my yeah, I wanted to, but yeah, I mean, I wanted to ask you about you say you taught and teach Spanish for business, yes? And I
Yes.
wanted to ask you, how does that look like at the University of Memphis, or how do you structure Spanish for business? And what would you recommend if because I mean, in my new job that I'm gonna start in August, I'm gonna be most likely gonna be asked to if I could teach like a Spanish for business class. And so I wanted to ask you, like, what would you recommend, or like, or just in general?
Perfecto. Thank you, Fernando. Yeah, and congratulations on your new job. I saw that on Facebook. I was like, yay. Yeah, usually that's the first class that we get asked to teach, So that was the first class that was already created. So I created Spanish for Commerce too, because it was so popular that they wanted it too. But we also have an MBA. So remember that, like whatever major, like at university, you look at your biggest major, you create a course in the language for that specific major. But for business, I have very good news for you. Dr. Michael Doyle, who wrote the Éxito Comercial, and I'm looking around because I think that I have the 7 editions. There's 7 versions of this book. His website, and this is in the slides, and if not, I will send it to you. He has a lot of resources, and he shares his syllabus. That's how it started. I copy what he said that we should do. He has even the structure of the job interview. And the book Éxito Comercial is structured like a Manual Capeluz. I don't know if you remember those when we study in our countries. El Manual Capeluz has, I think the Éxito Comercial has in average material for 2 semesters or 3, if you like to share that material across those weeks. And I can share my syllabus, but basically what I have in a typical class is, different terms, and it goes by country, but like what does it mean to export and import in this country, and the job interview, what would they expect? And it started to shift because back in the day we used to write letters of commerce. Right now, today we write emails, and then it switched from letters to fax to that's how old I am, and then now we're doing emails. And sometimes we just tweet and stuff like that. It just evolves with the technology out there. How to make a Zoom call for business, how to prepare your lightning and everything. It all goes like that. In the job interview, because of the pandemic, we did it completely online. In asynchronic versions, you can also record your interview or your little speech. And we teach the students communications, and you can go, like I said today, don't just focus on the terminology. I will focus also on the soft skills. What are some cultural aspects of such and such country that you want to keep in mind when you do your job interview or when you do business with the country, So yeah, and I'm happy to share that. But it's very doable, and it's just the same thing. You learn how to be a language teacher, but now you focus on commerce, and you're going to have so much fun with it. And if you create a real business in your class, you might be like, I look at the business, that food truck, he was in my class. Like I get to say with my student who created the coffee, But yes, Fernando, I'll be in touch and I'll share my syllabus contigo. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So
you're welcome.
and so you would recommend like 2 semesters for Spanish for Commerce?
Yes, definitely. Well, if you're going to start in your new program, probably start with 1 class so you don't overwhelm yourself. But then
Right.
I will start with 1, and you can still use Éxito Comercial for 1 semester. You just can make it work. You just use less content of each chapter. I mean, it has like 12 chapters and lots of content, but you can actually divide that in your, in your class,
Excellent.
But,
Excellent. Thank you, Diana.
Yeah, you're welcome. De nada. And then Stacy, Ginger, she has a dream catcher right back there.
I don't have any questions, but I appreciate you allowing me to be in the class or in the podcast.
Yes, yes,
It was very
absolutely. No, thank you for being here, and thank you for your questions. And Maria, mm,
I did have like a statement almost. It's very
yes,
interesting that you do teach Spanish commerce at a
yes,
university level, because
yes.
here at my university, the department of the Spanish or foreign language department had to teach a business course, but she had to mix nursing, she mixed education with it, she mixed all of this at one time because we don't have, it was so hard for her. And a lot of us, I was sitting there because I want to be a Spanish teacher. I was like, I don't really, these medical terms, they're going to help me a little bit, but I don't know if they're going to really help me. And then I don't really know about the business. We even learned criminal law at some point. It was every week. We had a different, almost.
Well, I know these courses, they're intro to the Spanish for the profession. Let me show you. I have a book. Hold on. I think I have it right here. So, by the way, I also review a lot of the books that are out there. So if you come across a book, I probably read it and I wrote a recommendation or not. But this one is a Spanish for the professions. And this is sort of like what you described. Like it's a potpourri of different topics. And these courses are popular as to introduce the students to the field of Spanish for the professions or language for the professions. And then if you offer this class, you have to have your Spanish for commerce, your Spanish for nursing, your Spanish for what, I don't know what other topics you describe, but it could be a little overwhelming. And this class is not an intro class. This is an intermediate class. It's a class where the students already learn the language for functioning, you know. So the biggest purpose is first that you have to know the language. So I'm a big fan of knowing the language, keep doing what you're doing. Nobody's asking you to teach medical Spanish at Spanish 1. That's a big lie. I'm sorry. If you start at Español 1, la medicina, no, forget it. And plus, I invite you to go to look at those books that say Spanish for medical purposes 1. You open it and it's a conversation. The doctor, I mean, just change the doctor for la verdulera. I mean, it's the same. It's not the profession in there. It's just the basic language skills that we learn in any other language class. So that's why classes for languages should be keeping keeping the same format that we have. Now, when we get at the intermediate level, when we get into the majors and minors, like the course I teach in commerce and stuff, is mixed with the traditional major. So the students don't have to choose between literatura, linguística, and WLSP. They get to take them all. So, and we want that. We want to keep that diversity. We don't want that to go away, because we can shift how we teach literature with more applied if we want. We can shift how we teach linguistics, or we do diversity in pronunciations. We do it for a purpose. Like when you go to the doctor, if a patient comes and has different ways to say things, as an interpreter, you have to be able to know the word for banana and the 700 ways that banana says, including the minions, how they say banana, you know, like, but there's so many ways to say banana, plátano, esto. I mean, there's oritos, verde, maduro. I mean, all these people had say banana in different ways. The same with another one, pan, no? Also how you describe body parts. Me duele la no sé qué, and then como la mollera. What is la mollera? I don't know. And that's why I'm a big fan of body language, because if the patients, you're like, I don't know what you're talking about, they can show, me duele la mollera, me duele los chamorros. Like a patient, say, me duelen los chamorros. And as far as I know, chamorros is the last name. And the chamorros are actually the leg, the lower part of the leg. You don't even need to know the name of the muscle. If the patient says, well, tóquese los chamorros, and he shows you in the leg, like, la pierna, the leg, okay, I got you. But there's a way. Also, body parts change the name because the person might be embarrassed to say the real name. So they changed the name to whatever local way is called. And so maybe that's the way we shift the linguistic classes to be there for a purpose. Whole class on food, a whole class on how to say food in different ways. I don't know. I'm just, I have a dream. So, so I have, my dream is to have a program when we do this track, and actually we have sort of like a make-believe places where we learn languages that are in this pretend supermarkets or pretend doctor's offices, and you get to play with real stuff and puppets. Why not? And so you're learning by doing, truly, and not by sitting con el libro en tu casa, sí, con el libro, right? You're actually doing it. But you can also do it in your, I mean, you could do the role plays in your classroom. Like you can say, well, now you're the doctor, you're the provider, go with the dialogues. You know, there's so many ways to create. Anyway.
Hey, well, thank you so much, Diana. Go ahead, Fernando.
Do we have time for one more tiny question?
Yes.
So I wanted to ask you, Diana, do you incorporate service learning in your courses? I just wanted to ask you if you do it for both healthcare and for business, or either one, or just in general. Yeah.
I want to sing, because that's actually one of the main things I do. Is actually, I have it right here. So this is my cruises project. So what I did, this was one of the biggest projects I did at the university, and it was a grant, and it was a capacity grant that, I'm gonna make it short. So we provided funds for immigrants new to the Binghamton area in Tennessee to start their own businesses. So the idea was that different cultures would say, this is the art that we do in my culture. We do this with recycled materials, and we give startup funds for that project. The students in Spanish for Commerce will get together with the artists and help them develop the first batch of this product or art, and then they sell it at the Christmas sale in a local nonprofit called Caritas Village. I know it's a long process, but the key here is, and I was not looking at the ball, in this case, ball was a Spanish. I was looking at the curtain and then the monkey, which was the diversity of culture. So only one of the artists spoke Spanish, and she was from Peru, and she made jewelry made out of, are you ready? Orange peel. It's phenomenal what she did. It's these flowers made with orange peel. So if you go to Etsy, the site, you can find a lot of artists that do orange peel jewelry, and it's completely recyclable, because I mean, after a while you have to throw them away, but for the time that you have them, is this big flower, smells like oranges on you. It's beautiful. And then other artists would not speak Spanish, like the Nepalese, people from Ghana, we have Gambia, so different countries. So in this poster, you can see the people from Ghana had the bags they created. And then this an lady from Mexico, she did this moños, little ¿cómo se dice? Bows. And this is the artist, this is Luz from Peru, that she made the orange peel jewelry, as you can see, if you can see that well. That's one of the flowers that she made. And then we created these Christmas cards for the nonprofit. And it says, Happy Holidays, Felices Fiestas. And it will send this to the businesses inside. We wish you all the happiness in the world. And then this was made for the nonprofit, and the nonprofit made the money of the cards and 20% of the sales of all these arts. So that was a big project, part of my Spanish for Commerce class. And I also have a specific Spanish in Memphis class, which is just for community engagement. And I'm surprised I did not put that in my list, but I started that because I taught and took Spanish in Ohio. I went to Ohio State University, and because the students could not go study abroad, one of my professors, Terrell Morgan and Donald Long, created this class called Spanish in Ohio, where the students had to take so many hours of volunteer work. Back in the day, it was a quarter, and it was 100 hours. So students were not happy when their friends came back from Spain. In Salamanca, they were drinking piña coladas, and the locals were like, "Oh, we're just helping the locals." Anyway, but it was a completely different experience. Nonetheless, it was very, very good because the students get to go to the community and do projects. But guess what? At the core of this is not practicing the language, is not learning the language. The community engagement comes first, and the language learning happens naturally, organically. If your objective is the language learning, then the community is there to help you, and you don't want that. You want actually an interaction. It's both ways. Es una ida y vuelta con la comunidad, and then language learning will happen. No te preocupes. It will not happen 100%. It's not like en español, por favor. You cannot do that in the community. But the students will learn the language as a result of the desire to collaborate with the community. And I'm happy to share that as well. So you can start a little project. You can do the Kiva project too. And definitely community engagement is at the core of all I do. And Annie Abbott has a book called Comunidades that I totally recommend that talks about community engagement. And it's a phenomenal book. It's very affordable. And also I'm happy to share that with you with Comunidades. Yes. Great question, Fernando. De nada.
I'm going to remind everybody too that everything is here at this original link where you went and found the Google form and signed up. So if you have any questions or follow up or want to watch more, everything will be there, and it's really easy to find. So yay. Diana, if we're all out of questions, thank you so much, obviously, for everything, for, man, like incredible. I have often wondered what people do when they do programs like that successfully, because you see, like in my district, we have some, well, and we're very large, but we have like, you know, you can do some like magnet cooking tracks, and you can do some mechanical tracks, and you can do all these kind of various things. And then they have always talked about doing them in target languages. And then with our dual language immersion, like really, like that could be really, really amazing. I haven't seen it like totally happen yet. However, I've often wondered, like, how does one successfully do a, you know, French for healthcare? Because usually somebody just goes, oh, okay, cool. Because like you said, they casually like, should I do a little Duolingo? Should I do, what do you recommend? I'm like, not what you've been doing. Like, I don't recommend thinking you can pick up some Spanish, you know, like in some book, but what do those people do who have worked on the language skills and then really for real want it for a specific purpose? So I've often wondered kind of like, what do those programs look like? Like, what does that look like when done well? So thank you so much for all the resources and everything.
And a little secret is a lot of those conversations at advanced culture are in English. Right. And it's okay to talk in English about those things because they're important to the class. You cannot talk about culture competence and culture humility in español uno. Mira, los estudiantes, vamos a hablar de la blah, blah. No, you can't do that in English. So it's okay if you take a moment of the class to talk in English, God forbid, and explain these cultural aspects to the class. It's completely okay. And that's my dream. You know, I love the communicative approach, but I also think that we need some room for these important conversations that happen. And this is beyond WLSP. I think the students need to put in context, why in the world are they learning languages? And if you have not asked that question yourself as a teacher, much less the students. So I'll leave you with that. Como dice Walter Mercado, con mucho, mucho amor. So I hope you stay in touch and I'm happy to share my syllabus. Everything is open to the public, and I hope you do wonderful things. And if you can improve my syllabus, please send them back, and I teach them with and I teach that with them. Gracias a todos. Gracias. Thank you,
Gracias, nos
Meredith,
vemos.
for the invitación. Gracias. Hasta luego. Bye.